1976, British engineers solved a problem the Soviets couldn't: firing bullets underwater. While the world's superpowers struggled with weapons that barely worked beneath the surface, Britain quietly developed something extraordinary. This is the story of the most silent gun ever made, and how it evolved into a weapon that could kill in an environment where nothing should work. Our story begins not underwater, but in the shadows of occupied France. 1943. British Special Operations Executive needed something that didn't exist: a gun that made no sound. Every weapon ever made had the same problem: hot gases escaping at supersonic speed. The bang you hear isn't the bullet. It's the explosive gases breaking the sound barrier. Silencers or suppressors could reduce this, but not eliminate it. That is, until a British engineer named William Godfrey Delisle had a radical idea. What if you eliminated the supersonic gases entirely? The Delisle carbine, introduced in 1943, was unlike anything that came before. It used .45 ACP ammunition, already subsonic, fired through a modified Lee-Enfield bolt action, with an integrated suppressor that was part of the barrel itself. The genius was in the details. A massive expansion chamber bled off gases gradually. Multiple baffles slowed the remaining pressure. By the time gases reached the muzzle, they were barely moving. The result? 85 decibels. Quieter than a door closing. British commandos could eliminate sentries from 50 meters away, and the only sound was the bolt cycling and the bullet impact. But the Delisle had a limitation: it only worked in air. Fast forward to the 1960s. The Cold War is heating up, and a new battlefield emerges beneath the waves. Soviet combat swimmers were sabotaging ships, planting mines, conducting underwater espionage. NATO needed a way to fight back. But there was a problem. Water is 800 times denser than air. Fire a standard bullet underwater, and it stops dead within 2 meters. The physics are brutal. As soon as a bullet enters water, drag forces increase exponentially. Standard ammunition deforms, tumbles, and loses all energy almost instantly. You'd be better off with a knife. The Soviets tried first. In 1971, they developed the SPP-1 underwater pistol. For barrels, special steel darts instead of bullets, spring-loaded firing mechanism. It worked, sort of. Effective range: 17 meters underwater at 5 meters depth. But on the surface, completely useless. Soviet frogmen had to carry 2 weapons, one for underwater, one for land. The Americans experimented with similar concepts, but hit the same wall. You could build a weapon for underwater or for surface combat. Not both, unless you were British. In 1976, British weapons designers at the Royal Small Arms Factory looked at the problem differently. They didn't ask, how do we make bullets work underwater? They asked, what if we evolved the Delisle concept? Meet the L-34A1 Sterling, the spiritual successor to the Delisle. Adopted by the SAS and Royal Marines in 1966, it was already the quietest automatic weapon in British service. The Sterling used 9mm subsonic rounds through an integrated suppressor. But the real innovation: the British designed special ammunition. Standard underwater darts were long, thin, and only worked in water. British engineers developed a hybrid round, a heavy, boat-tailed projectile with a hardened steel core, designed to maintain stability in both mediums. The secret was the shape: a sharply pointed nose to cut through water, with enough mass to maintain momentum. When fired through the Sterling suppressor, it could achieve something unprecedented. Effective range: 10 meters underwater at shallow depth. On the surface, still functioned as a standard suppressed submachine gun out to 50 meters. One weapon, 2 environments. The British Special Boat Service became the only special forces unit in the world that could engage targets continuously from underwater to surface to land operations without changing weapons. While Soviet frogmen fumbled with weapon swaps, and American SEALs relied on knives for underwater combat, British operators had genuine firepower in both realms. Now, let's address the myths about underwater firearms. Because Hollywood has lied to you. This? Impossible. Standard bullets don't travel through water like this. Let me show you what actually happens. Standard 9mm ammunition, Effective range 2 meters maximum. The bullet fragments and tumbles almost immediately. That bubble you see is cavitation. The bullet is creating a vacuum behind it, which collapses and destroys the bullet's stability. Now, specialized ammunition. Heavy, streamlined, solid construction. It maintains a stable cavity and keeps pointing forward. The difference is dramatic. 10 meters of penetration versus 2. But here's what the Soviets discovered and why their solution was limited. Underwater darts have almost no mass and no aerodynamics. In air, they're useless. The British hybrid round sacrificed some underwater performance for genuine dual-environment capability. Was it the best underwater weapon? No. The Soviet SPP-1 had better range in water. But it was the most practical underwater weapon, because real combat doesn't stay in one environment. Today, the concept has evolved further. Modern British Special Forces use updated versions of this technology, though specifics remain classified. Have you hit the subscribe button yet? Subscribe and like for more videos. What we do know is that the principle established in 1976 remains unchanged. Compromise between performance in multiple environments beats specialization in one. Other nations eventually caught up. The German P-11 underwater pistol, adopted in the 1990s. The Russian ASMDT underwater rifle from 2000. American Special Operations finally developed the multi-environment ammunition in the 2010s. But Britain pioneered the concept. One weapon, any environment. From the silent Delisle carbine of 1943 to the dual-environment Sterling of 1976 to modern systems we can't discuss. The Soviet SPP-1 became a museum piece. American underwater weapons stayed experimental. But the British approach, practical, versatile, combat-proven, that became the template everyone else followed. So when someone tells you underwater guns don't work, they're half right. Standard guns don't work underwater. But when British engineers combined the silence of the Delisle with purpose-designed ammunition and the reliability of the Sterling, they created something that shouldn't exist. A weapon that could kill in complete silence on land or beneath the waves. The gun that could fire underwater wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a tactical revolution. And somewhere in the world, British Special Forces are still using that technology. Because some problems, once solved, stay solved.